All right, good evening, everybody. As we begin this meeting, I'll ask everyone present to please silence cell phones and other electronic devices and remind council that our procedure bylaw prescribes the use of technology during council meetings, and I'm going to do exactly that. It is 5 o'clock. I'll call this special council meeting to order. And I will open with a territorial land acknowledgement. The municipality of Brighton Council respectfully acknowledges that we are meeting on the shared treaty and traditional territories of the Mississauga, also known as the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and the Williams Treaties First Nations. The lands and waters that make up our municipality have been and continue to be the collective responsibility of these Indigenous communities who have been their stewards and caretakers for generations. We recognize that this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across the region and Canada. We honor their enduring connection to this land and their significant contributions to its history and culture. As we gather to make important decisions for our community, let us also reflect on our shared responsibility to foster relationships built on mutual respect and understanding, and to work together towards creating a more just and equitable society for all. And to approve the agenda, I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the September 29th, 2025 special council meeting agenda be approved as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. I should note that Councillor Butwell has sent regrets, and Councillor McCausland has advised that she will be running a little late for this meeting, but intends to be in attendance. Members of council, have you any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. There are none noted. Topic of the special council meeting this evening is with regard to strategic plan priorities update September 2025. There is only one item to discuss this evening, which is the update of the strategic plan, or moving through the strategic plan. CAO, did you have a vision about how this would be presented?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't think I really had a vision. I think it's just there for council to review and have a discussion. You know, you have 1 year left in the term. If there's something that we haven't achieved or something that, you know, you want to see move forward over the next year, we would take that direction. When we started to update it, I recognized there was quite a bit that actually had been accomplished since our last update in January. So that's why it's color coded, just so you can see what staff have been working on over the last year. We also included the IT master plan update. In hindsight today, I thought I probably should have asked Manager Casabo to join us, and I did not. So if I can't answer questions today, I'm happy to follow up on anything that council has questions about tomorrow.
Okay. Is council comfortable then if we move through the strategic plan, and I'll note the category? And then if you have any questions or comments on any of the goals or other high-level information you're looking for, I would ask that maybe we attack it that way. Is that fair? Does everyone like that idea? That'll work. Okay, so the first category is health and health services. Is there any one of the 4 goals we should discuss? Councillor Wright.
Right now I think I'm looking mostly at the first one, the increased access to primary care, including family doctors, nurse, etc. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I have been told that we are actually losing another doctor. And I know that Paula Mason is now working with Northumberland County, and I'm wondering, can we put together a motion, or I can put together a motion where we ask all the municipalities to play with an equal playing field? Because I'm thinking what's happened is that one of the communities has provided a better offer. And I just feel like as a smaller municipality, we're just always going to be playing this game of catch up. And if we all come together as different municipalities, acknowledging that we're all only going to pay this much and we can't offer this, that, or the other, so that no one can then out offer us. I'm wondering if that's something that we could put on the table to go to county.
It was asked of you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Wright. There's certainly some uncertainty about
Yeah.
what the program's going to look like. So I do have a meeting scheduled with Ms. Mason Wednesday, I believe, to have a discussion about what the plan is. I don't know, and perhaps the mayor can correct me if he knows more than I do. I'm not sure what their plan is from a countywide perspective. My assumption is that they are going to make it that equal playing field when they look at the incentives. We have not had formal communication that that doctor is leaving, although I certainly have heard that. I've also heard that the doctor that has patients currently is willing to take them with them. It just means that they would have to travel to Coburg or Port Hope. I've heard both, so I'm not really sure where this position is going. As far as a motion, again, I think I would ask the mayor what his thought is, if he's had any other insight from the county level or what the expectation is.
So with regard to physician recruitment, it is the county's intention to create a level playing field from Port Hope to Brighton and from Lake Ontario to Rice Lake in order to ensure that we are in fact on an even playing field. So the county's intention is to take on that incentive program and help alleviate that financial burden to the local municipalities, and also at the same time create that Northumberland-based physician recruitment. So Paula would be then tasked with ensuring or trying to ensure that she's recruiting for all of the communities in Northumberland County and the county as a whole, of course, at the same time. That's the intention. We have not formalized anything in terms of what the program will look like yet. The first step was to make sure we had a recruiter in the door, and then provide some policies around what they're going to do. But Paula continues to work on her pipeline in order to do that. I know that it was not the physician recruiter that migrated the doctor from Brighton to the other part of Northumberland. It was, in fact, I don't think it was any physician recruitment group. I think it was just a decision made at the end of that. I mean, all of that. But there's no reason why, in terms of the first goal, that we couldn't let the county know what we're willing to do from, or what we have available from a office space point of view, or what we might be willing to do from a additional teams point of view. Yeah, we haven't formalized anything, so I'm just spitballing here. When that comes, so that we are at least as attractive as any other community in Northumberland County.
Through Mr. Mayor to Council. I know we still have a report that is forthcoming to Council regarding physician recruitment that is on the outstanding report and capital project status. My intention after meeting with Ms. Mason is to review the expectation from the county level and then come back to Council sort of with an idea of what it looks like moving forward. We still want to maintain our relationship with Quinte West as well. So that's something that we might want to report back onto, and what initiatives we could take in that direction as well. So we will come back with something, and looking at the space that we have, I think it's all part and parcel to that report, and giving Council an update on the vacancy we have and where we might be able to house some additional physicians.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry, just wondering how long it will be until we see that report? I don't think you just said.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Wright. I know that it was on for September. I think we bumped it to October. I'm honestly waiting to see what the county's intention is, because financially, I think we need to take the money that we have historically put towards physician recruitment and anticipate that that's going to be money that's going to go to the county through the levy. So I want to be very clear in what the expectation is there, and I'm not sure if they'll have those answers or not. So I would just like to bring something back that's fulsome, along with some recommendation on how we can even retain our existing physicians and potentially recruit others. Again, we want the fair playing field, but at the same time, we have space that we can offer too. So I'd like to look at what we can do in Brighton to incentivize.
Thank you both. Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. We've done quite a bit of spitballing around this horseshoe about physician recruitment over this term. And a lot of it has been about wondering if the incentives actually do anything. And so hearing that the county is looking at having an incentive program across the county, when my understanding was that other communities in Northumberland did not have the same cash incentive program, I wonder if that's going in the wrong direction.
So from a strategic point of view, I would I would concur with your statement. The county has been offered a significant donation in order to fund incentive programs specifically. Yeah. Yeah. So if we don't use it for that, then we probably don't get the money. So we'll probably venture down the incentive road until that money is used up, and then we don't know what tomorrow will bring. Anything else in the health and health services category? Go ahead, Councillor Wheeldon.
One of the things that we had spitballed a few times around here, and I'm sure will be mentioned in the report that Ms. Arthurs mentioned, is the possibility of offering administrative support to doctors. That does seem to be the thing that we hear over and over again, is that they don't like the administrative overhead. And that's something that I would most certainly support adding to this as a specific strategic goal. But maybe this isn't the time until we get that report.
I think it'd be wise to wait for the report and then perhaps add it to our strategic plan as a goal, if it in fact makes a lot of sense to do so. Thank you. Anyone else? The other thing I'm reading a lot about, and this is a complete aside, is I believe it was out west where they opened a clinic and hired doctors. The municipality is the employer, period. And the doctor gets to work 9 to 5 and not worry about billing. That's a municipal problem. So, Councillor Wright.
I would say that the Health Services Committee, we were supposed to have a meeting today and we didn't have everybody show up. And we're just seeming to have a hard time getting it up off the ground and you know, and my assumption is that Mr. Fredis's line of thinking was that it was to pull in like blood services and X-ray to the community. So we're a little bit cart before the horse with that, because I think we can't do those things until we have a really robust set of doctors here to feed into that system. But even still, I think it's a good path to go down to investigate and see all the things that need to happen so that we're ready to go when we do get that robust line of doctors. But it's a very long-armed, multi-armed, complex problem.
And it becomes a chicken and egg debate.
Yeah.
Do we, well, if we build it, will they come? That's an expensive venture if they don't. Anything else under health and health services? Okay, moving on to park and parklands. There are 6 goals listed there. Councillor Wright.
Just wondering, the RFP awarded to Raw Design, just wondering what the timeline is for that to come back.
Sale. Director Lennon.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The committee has met with Raw Design and they're currently working through the process. We have a brief conversation with them coming up the next week or so. And then we plan to get together with the committee again, and they're working on a public engagement piece that's part of the study currently. So the plan is still by year end to hopefully bring back to council, and I wouldn't want that to be taken as a promise, but we're on target and certainly in the coming months.
Thank you.
Thank you both for that. Anyone else under park and parklands? Director Walsh.
I'll just make a comment to Council Mayor, if I may.
You may.
As we deal with number 4, and we do so in the course of our consultations with prospective development individuals, so I'll just read it for Council, to ensure that developments are integrated with parks and recreation master plan. So if we're looking at a large development and we have a regard for the master plan, And the master plan is calling for metrics such as 4 hectares per 1,000 people. And we're left a little bit scratching our heads, where do these parks go? And the secondary plan will be helpful with that. And we keep revising it with these kinds of details. But I just wanted to let council know that we're mindful of that. And it's tough trying to find a neighborhood scale park at approximately 2 hectares within any one development. It's a big chunk of land. So it would be presumably money out of our pocket to supplement whatever land dedication they're otherwise obliged to give us. And there isn't really anything in the budget that I would see that would really allow us to do that. Just a comment.
Thank you for that. Is this on this item? Go ahead, Councillor Wheeldon.
Isn't that what cash in lieu on smaller developments is for? Is to give us money to do that?
Director Walsh.
That's correct. So under Section 41 of the Planning Act, and we have a new parkland dedication bylaw to help us with that. And it's comprehensive and effective as we experience implementing it on a regular basis. However, under the Planning Act, the maximum you can allow for is 5% of the lands or payment in lieu of that, the value of which is the appraised rate prior to the approval of the development. For residential, 2% for non-residential. It only goes so far, as we're finding. So for one pre-consultation we're going through, it's about I'm going to do it in metric. It's good size. It's a large property, but even then, we apply the 5%, and we're only getting halfway there.
Follow up?
Well, my question is more that we get cash in lieu in a great number of our development proposals. Where does that money go? Are we not holding on to that for the purpose of buying land?
Director?
To the mayor, prior to the parkland dedication bylaw, we had a very modest amount that was, I think it's $500 per lot for consents. And that was just standard practice, not within any bylaw that I found. And now with the new bylaw, it's at an appraised rate or the 5%. So that money does go into a parkland reserve as prescribed under the Planning Act. So it has to be dedicated for those purposes. It can't go to playground equipment and things like that. It's really meant for land, as far as I understand. And maybe manager finance will be able to assist with that at some point. But again, there's not much money there for the kind of land acquisition we'd be needing to supplement the supply we'd otherwise be realizing through the current mechanisms allowed.
Thank you both. Anyone else under Park and Parklands? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I think a meeting or two ago, we discussed kind of dusting off our waterfront master plan as well. I don't see anything in here. I'm assuming that we're not going to be probably dealing with that over this next year or so. Just wonder if at some point it will fall into a category under this heading.
It probably falls under number 5, which does note marinas, docking, etc., as that kind of thing. So it's and probably best to keep it wrapped up into other things as well, other more globally strategic items rather than getting into the weeds on a waterfront master plan. We'll just call that lessons learned. Anyone else? Park and Parklands. We can always come back to anything too. Moving on to customer service, and there are 9 items under the customer service category. Anyone want to tackle anything there? Councillor Wheeldon?
I've noticed in a number of categories, in the last category as well as this one, that a lot of the ongoing or have not been completed ones are planning to plan, so to speak. I know we've been going through a lot of changes in our senior staff, and so I imagine that that's the case why we see some blanks here. But this might be a strategic point, which I can ask one of the questions I wrote down, which is, do we need additional resources to help implement these plans? Or is this something that is just, now that we are set up staff-wise, we can get going on it?
CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Wheeldon, that's a loaded question. I'm relatively confident with the staff we have now. There are going to be some projects coming forward, one being our new financial system where we're likely going to need some resources. Records retention, we potentially could need some resources. So we'll come to council when those situations occur, but for the day-to-day, trying to modernize some of our processes. We have Mr. Creamer with us now, and he has a good team with him, and that I think will help that department sort of bring things along. So for the time being, I think we're okay. But there certainly will be some larger projects that we will need some additional resources.
Thank you both. Anyone else? Councillor Wheeldon.
On number 6, engaging, promoting, supporting volunteerism in the community. I do want to say that I think this is going well. I think that we're seeing it in a number of ways through committees, through supporting different community projects, through grants and in other ways. I'm increasingly seized by the notion that maybe the best thing we can do is facilitate, support, and empower good work in the community. And so I love that there is so much to say about this. Good work, team.
Thank you for that comment. Councillor Wright.
I'm not sure where this would fall under this particular list in customer service, but the website itself, the Brighton website, was it not due for some sort of a refresh in this? Where does that fall? And where are we with that?
CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Wright. We are working through the new website. Manager Casabo is meeting with the consultant to try to get the framework in place. We've looked at kind of themes and how the front will look. We certainly are pausing a little bit in anticipation of the new branding so that we can align that with the new website. But we are doing the behind the scenes and getting some pages in place. We've put together a staff team to review it. So we have somebody from each department that can really look at the areas that they know are important, and we can ensure that the access is sensible and it's easy for the users, so that everybody has some input. So we are getting there. I'm not sure if we'll get there by the end of the year, but we are in the process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. Anyone else? Moving on to economic development. There are 7 goals listed there. Members of council. Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. I had noticed under number 3, develop a local economic development strategy. It's noted not complete. Consulting budget and staff resources have been used to retain services of Granicus and move that project along to where we're now actively collecting municipal accommodations tax. Is the idea that we will be able to use those revenues to fund the ECDEV strategy?
Manager Hagerman.
Through the mayor to Councillor Wheeldon, it's a great idea. Honestly, so many priorities over the last 2 years or so. This one we just haven't got there on this one yet, but certainly using those revenues as we build, as the hotel, we begin to build from, collect from the hotel. makes hiring consultants that much easier, especially for tourism, economic development related projects. So definitely something we'll look at.
Thank you both. Anyone else? Under number 5, attract a full service hotel. Can anyone give me an update on where we're at with that plan? Director Walsh?
Through the mayor to council, we're just having some peer review comments on the traffic impact study, going forward to the proponent's engineer on traffic. That we're looking at a extension of the right-hand turning lane, and so it's a difference of opinion whether it's needed or not. Secondly, we have in our urban arterial cross section in our transportation master plan a certain profile that calls for 3-meter travel lanes. One side is 1.5-meter bike lane, curb, boulevard of about 1.5 meters or something, 2 meters. Thanks, Bill. And a MUP. So we're just working out that cross section because it comes down to the question of the need of the 1.5-meter bike lane. So we have to coordinate that with the previous referred review of the traffic impact study. So those are the last two dangling details. The landscaping plan has been reviewed and peer reviewed and accepted. That was interesting. And otherwise, I think we're down to that last element. And we have a meeting set up this week to go over that. Lastly, we do have a building permit submitted. So once the site plan is approved with that last two details, then we can probably get that building permit issued fairly soon. And I'd have to check on with the CBO as exactly what status the building permit review is at.
Thank you. Councilor Wright.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Walsh. I know you just said that the site plan hasn't been fully approved yet, contingent on that final 1 or 2 details, but do we know yet whether the hotel is going to be butt up against County Road 2 or is it pushed back further into the property?
Director?
The hotel will still be fairly proximate to Elizabeth Street. It is something I encourage just to allow better interaction from pedestrians to the building as opposed to cutting through a big asphalt parking lot. And so that was generally encouraged. What was also generally encouraged was there'd be more direct public access to the building. And True Value Hotel had the hope, because the parking is all on the south side, they've had the main podium and entrance there. But there will be the sidewalk coming down the street along the westerly section of the hotel, making for relatively convenient access to the hotel, taking advantage of its proximity to the street. And with the MUP will be there, that will also expedite that active transportation towards the podium. Yep.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Number 7, facilitate the redevelopment of the former gas station. I don't want to get into specifics here, but I see that there's some activity from the landowner. Can you do some broad brush strokes on that?
Yes, Mayor. We've got 3 concept plans. The concept plans involve 7 stories, commercial at main grade, and a seniors residence above. Whether seniors, what degree of seniors versus nursing, we don't know. I don't think we've got that level of detail from them yet. And we've let them know that we have a CIP brownfields because there's a brownfield site. And we also have the downtown revitalization CIP. I'm not sure exactly what details that might benefit them, if any. I'll be working with the manager of economic development on that. That's about as far as we've gotten to date. We haven't had any direct conversations with them, just some emails with the concept plans. I think the manager of approvals has had some conversations, but with the development review team, we haven't had any direct conversations with the proponent. So that's basically the broad brushes of it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead.
This is not specific to this section, but it strikes me as we're looking at this that one of the things that that we did prior to making these goals in the first place was take a look at any opportunities or threats in the environment, and those things have changed over the last little while. And so if in any category somebody sees an opportunity that's worth noting here, I think that would be worthwhile, because asking ourselves, you know, what's here is a good thing. Asking ourselves what's missing or what could be here is maybe even better. And noting the new opportunities or threats, it would be really helpful in that.
Thank you for that. Anything else under the economic development category? So we go on to E, transit and transportation, and there are 4 goals listed there. CEO under number 2, advocate for bus service stop. We've had very gentle conversations with a group called Via something or other. It's not the train people. It's the bus people with a very similar name. But we haven't engaged with them in any serious way. I think their dollars and cents might be out of the ballpark, but perhaps you could speak to us about that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we had some initial conversation and they were supposed to come back to us, and we have not seen anything as of yet. Perhaps Director Linden could speak. I don't want to put him on the spot. There was an invitation today for a webinar to look at some micro transit, which we both registered for the 15th of October. So that was just today, so not added on the list, but we certainly continue to look at opportunities.
Well, perhaps if there's something that comes out of that webinar, we'll hear about it from Bill. Thank you. Yeah. And it's, I can't trust that clock. It's 5:32. Councillor McCausland has joined us in chambers. Welcome. For your information, we are currently on the category transit and transportation. And for council's information, on number 3, advocate for rail service stop. Perhaps you heard that they want to eliminate rail service stops in Eastern Ontario, almost essentially, although they put the brakes on that today. They are not going to start their pilot project. Via put a press release out saying they're going to continue with their normal service as they work through the opportunities. I have had a couple conversations with the high-speed rail people, Alto, and just Northumberland County and the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus have all provided support to Alto. I mean, moral support to Alto, saying we like the idea of the high-speed rail, and although it doesn't touch in Northumberland County because it goes Montreal, Ottawa, Peterborough, Toronto, it does offer opportunities to alleviate some traffic on the lakeshore line. My hope would be that we could see additional stops or additional times of stop on the lakeshore line with Via or whoever takes on that role at some point. But I think unless and until we see the actual high frequency rail, as it's being called, truly funded and construction beginning, everything's up in the air. Although they have a robust staffing level, I can tell you that at Alto. So hopefully something real is happening there. Councillor Bilden.
Thank you, Mayor. Also with regard to bus services and stops, Quinte Transit continues to grow in its ridership and continues to look for more more demand for regular pickups. They had at one point pre-pandemic had a regular service to Brighton, and it never really found its feet. And then the pandemic happened and everything changed. So it's been it is available for on-demand pickup in Brighton and gets out here a lot. I see Quinte Transit buses here very frequently, but not on a regular route. So as we grow and densify downtown, we will have more opportunity for regular routes. And so that should give us some direction in terms of the kinds of development and infill that we're looking to have so that we can make that work.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon, for that. Anyone else on transit and transportation? Councillor Wheeldon.
I did want to ask about the transportation master plan only because it's one of those items that has had its due date crossed out a number of times.
Director Lennon.
Thank you, and through the mayor to Councillor Wheeldon. Yeah, so we're at the phase now where we've received the public comments from the consultant, and staff are just reviewing those comments to confirm that the consultant can reply, and then bring that back to council with a series of policies for speed management and traffic calming and things like that. So the hope is, I'd say, hopefully by the end of October, I can bring that back to council and finalize the transportation master plan.
Thank you both. Anyone else on transit and transportation? Councillor Wheeldon.
With regard to new possible threats on the horizon, has there been any clarity at all or just bluster regarding whether or not our automated speed enforcement will be summarily canceled on us?
I think we have to wait for the legislature to come back into session on October 20th. The Premier has promised that he will introduce legislation. We don't know what that legislation looks like or will look like. Anyone else on transit or transportation? Move on to F, public safety. There are 7 goals listed. Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. Number 4, noting a additional staff and bylaw will be reviewing this for a draft policy, and it was last noted at March 2024. I know we have additional staff and bylaw now, and she's great. Has there been movement on that?
Number 4 is enhancement of bylaw traffic enforcement. Director Walsh.
Yeah, number 4 and 5 can be kind of read in combination in terms of the March 25, well, there has been movement on it. Maybe we should have had a revised date in there, but there has been some initial drafts in terms of a revised policy that would be get before council. So we're doing things maybe not necessarily on a complaint basis with each bylaw enforcement response, but some things on a proactive basis, prioritizing things that may infer on public health and safety, such as some parking and other traffic related details, hazardous trees, those sorts of things that you would find in a property standards bylaw. Yeah, we dealt with some hazardous trees fairly recently and had to send our own people in to do the work and then do a collection as taxes for the costs. And it wasn't cheap, it was about $4,000. But the folks were very unresponsive. And the contact information made available to staff was very limited. So that was part of the problem. But the intent is to give a loose policy to more proactive on things that affect the community.
Thank you both. Anyone else? I'm going to go to G, housing supply. There are 6 goals listed there. And I'm going to focus on number 1 here, Director Walsh. I see it says January 2026. This would be for the RFP. Is that correct?
Through the mayor to council, no, we should have it here, I'm hoping in October. So it's pretty much complete. Kind of giving it another examination of some of the business model terms of reference. And I'd like to have the terms of reference before council. I know it's not normal that we have an RFP come before council before it's being issued after it's already been budgeted. But this is such a prominent project. I think I would like to have council's eyes on it and see what the direction is, where it's heading in terms of the direction that the RFP would be giving the prospective consultant or the board of consultants. So I think there's enough interest around this table that you would like that kind of procedure on this one. So that's the intention.
I think that's wise. Thank you for that. Are we on track to initiate the OP?
Through the mayor to council, yeah. So we've budgeted this year for the initiation of official plan review and a comprehensive zoning bylaw review. We're at the stage of project planning essentially as we're finishing off the secondary plan. And so we're getting a work breakdown structure, plus with some of the issues that came up with the housing and homelessness and needing to consolidate, or not consolidate, but standardize zoning bylaws provisions and that sort of thing. It might be worthwhile to make sure we coordinate those 2 initiatives or those 2 efforts. So if council recalls, we're trying to have maybe a project committee among planners at the lower tiers who deal with zoning issues and see if we can't standardize some of those things.
Thank you. Anything else under housing supply? Councillor Wheeldon.
You may have already said it, sorry, Mayor, through you to Director Walsh. You may already have mentioned it, but secondary plan is perhaps the item of all items that has been delayed. And I know a lot of it was to do with consultants and change in that department. Late 2025, do you know, can you be more specific?
Sure. I mean, Renee's been pretty productive on it, our special projects planner. So it's the staff report coming to council's done. Doing some, every time we do a consultation on a development, subdivision, where we find ourselves having to revise the schedules. And plus it's had to have some wholesale changes as being informed by the Transportation Master Plan and the Parks and the Parks and Rec Master Plan, as we earlier discussed. So anyway, it's with that added information, there's been some significant changes and still wrestling with the parks thing a little bit. And but the policies are extensive and are complete. And so staff report to council is in draft, ready to come in October.
Thank you both for that. Anyone else under housing supply? Councillor Wheeldon?
In the spirit of acknowledging changes to the threat landscape, the state that housing is in is that we heard at the AMO conference that there's something like 27,000 new homes in Ontario that have already been built and are sitting empty because nobody can afford them. Most of what I've seen in the industry from economists notes that removing HST, which is obviously a federal and provincial matter, would help make new homes more competitive, because we do need more supply. We can't just stop building new homes, and we also can't have everyone laid off because they're anticipating maybe 100,000 layoffs in the construction industry over the coming year because of housing starts slowing down. So recognizing that construction industry is about half of our industrial park, and recognizing that house prices are not really going down much in Brighton. I still see regular price decreased notifications on existing listings because the market is so slow, but it's not coming down so much that we're going to see a sudden influx of people being able to afford new homes. So we're in this awkward position where we need to make constructing more homes significantly cheaper so that they can be sold for significantly cheaper than the market currently offers. And that means that other homes that are currently on the market also are probably going to end up taking a hit. All of this to say that as we look into developing our land banking program into housing and hopefully affordable and truly affordable housing, we are going to need to account for significant cost reductions in that construction process. I think a lot of the policies that we've been talking about or that we are already implementing in terms of development charge deferrals, in terms of land lease model, in terms of a lot of the incentives that we have in place can go a long way toward that. But it is a reminder that we need to keep that top of mind, or else nothing that we build will actually be truly affordable unless it comes through direct subsidy from us, and that's not sustainable.
Thank you for that. Anyone else under housing supply? Moving on to H, infrastructure. There are quite a few. 11 goals listed. I'm going to look at number 1, develop increase investment in infrastructure maintenance plan that includes funding models for road sidewalk replacement, future asset management plan, fall 2025. Director Lennon.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we did bring a update to the asset management plan to council recently. That'll be the overarching document to share high-level funding needs for our road infrastructure. It'll be informed by the roads needs study and a transportation master plan and assessments of our roads and sidewalks by staff or consultants. So that did come to council, but it'll be an annual process moving forward, part of the budget process as well.
Thank you. And number 4, prepare a water supply continuity plan. Think of 2018 when we had 2 water main breaks that shut the entire community down. Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So in that particular one, I have done lots of conversations with our staff from the water department, but we haven't really made many grounds on that or set that as a priority. It is part of the discussion moving forward, and as we check a lot of these items off the list, we'll focus on the other ones on the list as well. But the feedback I get from our team is we haven't experienced any water main breaks recently, which knock on wood. But I'm not aware of any significant long-term planning, but it's on the radar.
I think it's on here because it is a strategic priority, and we certainly saw what happens when the water main breaks anywhere north of Alice Street, where the line is in fact twinned either down Yonge or down Alice. So beyond that, it's a single line from the plant all the way down to Alice, and I'm going to say Yonge again, but it's Alice and George, I think. So so let's keep those conversations going, but let's turn them into an action plan.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Number 6, design, construct industrial park. I know that we are getting to the point where we're going to need to look at additional lots at some point soon, and there is some concern around quote unquote wetlands in that neck of the woods and what that will mean. So I'm going to look to Manager Hagerman or to Director Walsh to provide us with updates around that, what the plan is as we move that forward. Mr. Hagerman?
Through the mayor, to the rest of the council, we've kind of been back and forth, different conversations with Lower Trent Conservation, and then kind of Paul and I strategizing different opportunities, different options. Site-specific EIS is something that could be a solution. So mainly leaving it up to the landowner, developer of the lot to get a environmental impact study done on the specific piece of property. Paul and I talked as recently as last week about a 2026 budget ask, which would be, as you see in your report, include stormwater and wetland management plan, which could allow some conversations to reopen up with Lower Trent. But at the end of the day, I think the first action plan, obviously getting some of the lots that are on road frontage at the moment, getting them opened up and developable would be fantastic. Because we are running low on inventory. We've had a really busy kind of late summer into the fall just recently. And there's not gonna be much left here in the next couple months. But really deciding how we're going to complete the road block in the industrial park and getting that service to me is almost just as equal of high priority in the industrial park as well. So a lot going on out there for sure. I don't know if Paul wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, so the Conservation Authority wanted us to update our EIS because it was over 2 years old. And it started with some discussions on amphibians, and because our consultant didn't recommend it the first round, anyway, long story short, that's off the list. And so Conservation Authority is asking us to still consider compensation of wetland. So we may be able to reshape what's there and put it elsewhere. And secondly, we've noticed that during our site plan reviews that there's been needing to be quite a bit of work done on each lot for stormwater management and other expensively for those individual proponents, which they're getting a good deal on the lot. So I guess not so much of an issue. However, there's probably a more efficient way to do it if we had a comprehensive stormwater management plan for the whole park. So those two might go together. We wouldn't necessarily do wetland compensation through a storm pond. That's not consistent with Lower Trent standards, but it might be worthwhile to, if there's, coordinate the effort to the same consultants. So I'm hoping through the budget process, and I haven't had the chance to discuss this with the manager of finance or the CIO as yet. Dangerous when you think out loud, but it is on my list.
Yes, it is.
Some ways that won't cause any new money to be spent toward that effort.
Thank you, Director Walsh. So those lands do us nothing just sitting there. They're not generating any taxes, they're not providing any employment. But by developing them out, we know we can employ people, and fairly significantly in our community. We've seen this happen over the course of the last couple of years, especially in our industrial park. It would be my preference to have a and this is just me, I have not spoken to my fellow members of council about this, so now I'm just going to talk. It would be my preference to have a consolidated plan for that, both in terms of an EIS and in terms of stormwater. I would prefer that it is as seamless and as simple as possible to come and buy and develop those lands. Because we're competing against the Coburgs and the Port Hopes and the Bellevilles and the Trentons of the world, and we're significantly smaller. So if there's not a good offer here, then they can easily go off somewhere else. And I know that Trenton's out of land right at the moment until they find more. And I also know they were selling their land at almost twice the price that we are currently marketing our land for. Or 3 times, yeah. So I know there's already those incentives baked in. I know we already provide DCs back. We don't charge DCs on industrial land. And yet still, they're not exactly rushing the door to buy lands here. So if we can make it seamless to invest in the community, I would like to see us do that. But before you take that as direction, I would prefer council chime in on that. Councillor Wheeldon.
I agree that the simpler the process of development there, the better. I definitely want to make sure that we align with Lower Trent's standards in terms of wetland conservation and management. But if it takes extra steps for us on the front end to do everything right and have it done thoroughly so that somebody else can have a turnkey operation, I think that's worthwhile.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wright.
I would entirely agree. I think if we were to have every individual owner do their own environmental study, I think it just won't serve that space well, and it'll end up piecemeal and backfiring on us somewhere.
Yeah, not just piecemeal and backfire, but it disincents people from investing. I mean, regardless of the fact that we have an attractive per acre lot, the additional wrangling, the additional paperwork, the thought of having to deal with yet another consultant when I can go somewhere else and I don't have to do that, and all I have to do is pay money. If you're an investor and you've got the money to spend, yes, this is an attractive place to grow. We know that, and yes, the money's attractive. But if it's just going to cost you another year when you want to get that business up and running, I think it's best that we front end it. And if we have to, we can front end it and put it on the per acre charge, because we know our lots are cheaper than almost anywhere else. That was a no budget solution. That's correct. All right. Anyone else on? I don't know what we're on. We're on infrastructure. On infrastructure. Councillor Wheeldon.
I wanted to ask about number 11, identify natural heritage assets, including those owned by others. And then there's a list here: Lower Trent Conservation Authority, Ducks Unlimited, Northumberland County Council, Nature Conservatory of Canada, MNR, Northumberland Land Trust, Provincial Parks. I also hope that we will be able to identify natural assets that are privately owned by residents, landowners, so that we can identify and prioritize natural assets that are in fact serving our community, but are doing so without being recognized as such. I know that when we don't know what's there, land can be deemed as worthless or can be deemed as worth a lot for development purposes. But without recognizing those natural assets, we'll never know if maybe it's worth more just as preserved land. And so I think that's really important to our natural asset management moving forward.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Director.
Through the mayor, so the GIS staff person is working on it as we speak. It may be done actually. So there's about a dozen different impact property codes that can be used and names in that data that can be searched and utilized to map those assets. So our GIS staff person, I think, may have it done by now. But I just raise the question of what are the private type assets that you might have in mind as an example for our follow-up.
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Wetlands is a great example. You know, Northumberland Land Trust and Ducks Unlimited bought the Biddy Creek wetland on Little Lake Road, and now that is recognized and is included in this list. But before that, it was just private land that the owner couldn't develop and they didn't know what to do with. So I'm sure it's not the only one, but it's what easily comes to mind. I know it's retains considerably more water than any of our stormwater ponds does.
Thank you for that. As an example. All right, anyone else under infrastructure? I is environment and sustainability, and there are 2 goals listed. One has been awarded as an RFP, and the other one, staff are participating with the countywide adaptation plan. Any questions on those? Go ahead.
More of an update. The county sustainability officer reached out to me this week, putting together a meeting of the Northumberland Climate Cohort. I don't know if you recall, but a few years back, several of us from different environmental sustainability committees and councils across Northumberland got together, representing all of the lower tiers, and did a group training through Tamarack out of Waterloo and Hamilton on environmental sustainability initiatives. And so Corey reached out to us and said, hey, we'd love your input into our countywide adaptation plan as well. But this group had previously met with her, I want to say, in the first few months of her employment at the county, and asked for the county adaptation plan to be something that all lower tiers can attach themselves to in some kind of modular way, so that we can have input into it, so that we can have benefit from it, so that we can collaborate across the county. And I am excited to see in here that this is being described as a participatory countywide adaptation plan. That's exciting to see. And it continues to grow in terms of connections with Lower Trent. I've had some conversations with Ms. McKay and Lower Trent about natural asset mapping and things like that. The Northumberland Food Policy Council has been engaging with Ms. McKay as well, looking at food system mapping. So there are a lot of different aspects of this that are moving parts, and they are all very relevant for Brighton, but don't necessarily fall under our work plans. And so I want to make sure that everyone's aware of those and that we can keep that in mind as we are building out our own integrated community sustainability plan, that there are hooks there that we can grab onto.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Anyone else on the environment and sustainability section? It is 6:03. I think we should take a 15-minute recess, grab some dinner that was provided for us, and then circle back to do a wrap up and see what next steps look like, or perhaps have staff provide us with what they think next steps look like from their perspective. So it is now 6:04. We will reconvene at 6:20. Okay, thank you, everyone. At 6:20, I'll call the meeting back to order. And before I try to wrap this up, I'm going to ask if we want to contemplate anything else. I know that Councillor McCausland was not here for the first couple, and want to make sure we didn't miss anything as we went through, or if people had some brilliant ideas or concepts as we went through and thought of them during the break. Councillor McCausland.
Unfortunately, I'm all out of bright ideas today, but I just wanted to say that I was listening on my way here and there were some great conversations and some great ideas. I did want to talk on the doctors retention program. And you said how some municipalities down, I think it was West, had brought on doctors and then the rest of it was kind of left with the municipality to do billing wise. I think if we could look at nurse practitioners as well, that would be great. And then I said one other point I wanted to say, if I may, the events that with the arena, I know I read with Shinny on PA days. I don't think we ever had that when I was younger. I think that'd be great to just kind of go and see how many kids come out. It's kind of just something to point out and just a lot of good efforts in with our staff.
Thank you for those comments. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you, Mayor. I do take some responsibility for us being here today because I was bugging CAO about if we were going to do a strategic plan update. I know last term there was a strategic plan and then 2 years later there was an update. And as the former chair of the strategic plan review team, I felt like it was on me to make sure that we actually did that this time. And I didn't have anything in particular that I felt like we needed to draw extra attention to. And I think if anything, this exercise we've gone through tonight has shown just how much we have managed to accomplish. And I think that's entirely to do with our excellent staff who took the vision that we had in the first place and translated that into work plans and have worked diligently. Before I actually made it to this seat, I was under the impression that municipalities were places that handled recycling and potholes and rarely dared to do more. And I think that that's a common sentiment. And of course, I knew what I was getting into, and I knew that we could do more. I have been stunned at how much we've been able to achieve in these past 3 years. The number of balls that are now rolling, and that I feel quite secure in knowing that they will continue to roll. If they don't get finished this term, they will get finished next term, because I think that is rooted in the strength of the vision. And so the other desire I had for this meeting was to help us all recall that vision. The document we've been looking at is a bit more granular, but all of the things that are in this document came originally from a vision that was generated through a lot of public input, a lot of people spending time thinking about, what kind of Brighton do I want to live in today? What kind of Brighton do I want to be here when I'm gone? What does Brighton 2050 look like? What does Brighton 2100 look like? Is it a place where we still have the small town charm downtown? We still have an agricultural community around us, but we're walkable. And I remember we would do this exercise where we'd say, okay, now imagine yourself in town in Brighton. How did you get there? What do you see around you? And the things that people said they wanted to see is, well, I got here by walking, or I took transit, or I rode my bike, and I'm still seeing the trees of the park and seeing my neighbors. There was a comment made at a meeting recently about what makes Brighton Brighton, what kind of developments feel truly like Brighton. And that, I think, was a good reminder to me of the vision that we had here. The things that make Brighton what it truly is, and the things we're trying to evoke in new branding that we're bringing forward, those are the kinds of things that we get to embody in concrete, literal concrete, or in soil, in the things that we plant today. And so as excited as I am to see that there are so many things getting checked off of this list, I'm even more excited to see, okay, what comes next to continue to embody this vision. It might not be appropriate in the last year of the term to set up a whole new strategic plan for that will lock in the next term, but I am confident that it will be equally full of groundbreaking and groundbreaking projects that will set the tone of our community for the next 50 years or more. So thank you all for this. I hope you can remember that vision and can still see it clearly. And I hope that residents can see that vision as well. And be able to look at what we've achieved here and know that we are building the Brighton that we all want. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon. Anyone else have anything to say before we read the motion? So the motion is moved by Councillor Wheeldon and seconded by Councillor Rowley that Council receive the strategic plan priorities update September 2025 for information. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. That brings us to question period. There's no one in the gallery and there's no one on Zoom, but I have received a question by email. And we have done this before where we have asked someone's question by email. So in the interest of equity and equality, we will do the same again. So it comes from David Green with regard to physician recruitment. He notes, our doctor, and we're pleased to have a doctor, works out of the 22 Dundas Street location, often referred to as Dr. Evans' offices. In our recent visits to the doctor, we've heard the office staff complaining about the space, primarily around seating for patients and the fact that only a few doctors, 2 maybe 3, can be in the office at the same time, and patients have been quietly griping to each other. We've observed that parking can also be a challenge. In inclement weather, we're asked or told to remove our winter footwear, so there's a pile of boots in a very cramped entrance foyer, and you have to walk through a puddle to approach the reception area. Yet at the other end of town, we have our BHSC, which sits with maybe 2 doctors and maybe a nurse practitioner and a dietitian and admin staff in a space that could easily service 7 or 8 doctors or maybe more. What plans are in place to address the imbalance of space utilization, not the model, the space? I think it's a fair question. And I don't, Mr. Green, have an answer. I know you're listening. I don't have an answer to this question other than to say that staff continue to look at the space options and availability and will continue to do so and try to find best efficiencies moving forward. Is that a fair comment, CA? Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I can also fairly speak to the fact that we certainly have engaged with Dr. Evans about the potential for space there. And I know Director Linnon has been speaking with him and has toured the facility to present that and provide those opportunities. So should that move forward, we may have to do some renovations to that building, and that would certainly come back to council to discuss how we would make all of that work, because it would be different models, but we certainly are in conversations with Dr. Evans about the available space that's there.
Perfect. Well, that sounds like we're moving that needle forward. I move to the confirmatory bylaw. It's a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading, and finally finally passes on the state being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the corporation of the municipality of Brighton special council meeting held on September 29th, 2025. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. And a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, I think. Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that the September 29th, 2025 special council meeting adjourn at 6:30 p.m. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And as you travel home, I hope you have a pleasant and safe journey. Thank you all.